So Lone Rider here, and I wanted to throw something out there. Why is it in America we allow people who have no idea what they're talking about to make the rules for a subject? Um, you know, would you hire an architect who didn't know how to design a house? Would you hire a lawyer who was incapable of defending you in court, perhaps even never passed a bar exam? Would you go to a doctor who was a known quack? Most people would answer no to all of these questions. Yet when it comes to getting policy advice about serious issues, we turn to people who don't know anything about the issues or the items involved. And a classic case of that is gun control. The vast majority of gun control opponents, i.e., so-called pro-gun people, know about guns. Why? Well, a lot of them are firearms enthusiasts or gun owners themselves. Just like, an average experienced cyclist who's been riding for 10, 15, 20 years probably knows more about cycling than somebody who hates bikes and thinks they're all jerks and hasn't ridden a bike since they were 5. That's not really a surprise, I don't think. I mean, generally speaking, people who want to restrict an activity usually aren't participants in it. And usually people who are participants in an activity know more about it because it's something that they're interested in and they've bothered to learn up on it and they have a personal experience with it and so on and so forth than people who don't. That in itself isn't particularly shocking. What is particularly shocking is that when we then want policy advice, we turn to the people who know the least about the subject. And they demonstrably know the least about the subject. It's not just that, well, okay, they've never shot a gun before, so they don't have any practical experience with it. Because they can still know the facts about that particular firearm and how it works and what its existing regulatory status is and etc. No, this isn't just that they don't have any practical first-hand experience with firearms or that particular type of firearm. This is more of a question of they haven't even bothered to do like a 5-minute Google search. I mean, literally, that's all it would take. And I think the thing that you have to look at then is this is willful ignorance. This isn't just a question of, well, they don't have 20 years of experience with that as a hobby. They don't know how to reload ammunition by hand. They don't know. They're not experienced with holding a pistol. They don't know where all the controls are. They couldn't field strip that gun blindfolded, etc. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not saying they're not an expert. I'm not saying they don't have intuitive muscle memory, hands-on experience. I'm saying they can't even tell you what kind of gun it is. Classic case, the so-called assault weapons issue. Now, assault weapons is a politically created term that refers to basically anything the government wants to refer to. The reason that it was created, and it really started to take off in the late 80s, early 90s, is because the term assault rifles was already kind of taken and was generally used in a sort of vague way to refer to military-style rifles, basically something chambered for a middling cartridge that had a fairly decent capacity and was capable of select fire, so either fully automatic or multi-round burst, and also single shot, i.e. semi-automatic. Of course, that's not what they're describing. They're describing, when they use the term assault weapon, they're describing civilian semi-automatic only rifles. Why? Well, the term is close enough to assault rifle, they're kind of hoping they'll confuse people. The problem is that people have been living with this confusion for over 2 decades now, and it's actually gotten to the point where a lot of people have gone back to just saying assault weapon because they don't even know the difference anymore. There's a big danger to these kind of myths in terms of educating the public. But the point is, when you ask one of these people, well, okay, do you actually know what an assault rifle is in the generally construed sense of the term? And they're like, no. Do you know the difference between select fire and semi-auto only? No. I remember one of these guys, I think it was Don Lemon, I'm not sure, but got up there and said something like, well, if it can shoot very fast. So if you have a revolver and somebody can just pull the trigger really fast, is that an assault rifle? I mean, it's kind of, it's as silly as it sounds. And these are the people they turn to as experts. These are the people they put forth as folk we should listen to. These are the people they want to take policy cues from. And, again, it's humorous. In your personal life, if you need an expert, you want somebody who's the best of the best. If you find out you have a brain tumor, you want the best neurosurgeon you can get. Why? Because it's your head, right? If your car gets wrecked, you want to go to a good mechanic who's going to fix it. You don't want to go to some hack who's going to put it together all wrong, and then your brakes are going to fail, and you're going to get killed or crash into a school bus or something. If you want to have an addition put on your house, you hire a pretty good architect and a pretty good contractor. Why? Because if you hire a crummy one, your porch might fall down. If you get charged with a crime or you're embroiled in a lawsuit, you want to hire a lawyer who's passed the bar exam. I mean, at a minimum, right? He's demonstrated that he knows the material, he knows the rules, he knows the procedures, he can do his job. Yet when we are talking about a serious policy issue that involves everything from criminal misuse of firearms and life or death incidents to constitutional rights and civil liberties and people's property, you want to listen to people who don't even know what they're talking about and can't define it. I don't understand the logic here. Unless you're willing to go to a known quack for brain surgery, unless you're willing to hire an architect who will make your house collapse, unless you're willing to go to a mechanic who's going to butcher the brakes on your Honda Civic, and unless you're willing to hire a lawyer who hasn't passed the bar exam and will probably get you sentenced to the electric chair or lose that lawsuit, then you shouldn't be listening to people who don't know about firearms to learn about firearms. Okay? And I totally understand. People could say, well, the guys who know about guns are all pro-gun, or most of them are. That's absolutely true. But you know what? Everybody's got a bias. You think the people who hate guns and don't want anything to do with them and want them all outlawed are objective observers? You have a choice between two sides. One side that knows what they're talking about and one side that doesn't. Obviously, each of them is going to have their own opinions. But maybe, just maybe, and here's the point, those opinions are informed by their knowledge or lack thereof. Maybe the people who want to restrict the guns and want more strict gun laws, maybe they don't know what the existing gun laws are or how strict they are. Maybe they don't know what the consequences of that already is for law-abiding citizens, or can be. Maybe they don't know enough about the guns. Maybe if you can't even say whether it's a semi-automatic or select fire gun, how do you know what its legal status is? Because the legal status for both is very different. One is very heavily restricted, one isn't. And maybe the people who know more about the subject aren't as in favor of, such draconian proposals. Not so much because they have a bias and they're gun owners themselves and they just want to be able to shoot their guns, but that may be part of it. But maybe a really big part is that they actually know what they're talking about and they understand the subject. In other words, maybe their knowledge informs their opinions. Just like maybe the lack of knowledge that the anti-gun people has informs theirs.